TB&J!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the TB&J podcast, remotely, because we're having whatever. Today's a weird day. With me today is Chris Carroll.
Yep, we're missing one.
Yeah, we are missing one. Dee's here though, and he makes up for it.
Here's Troy.
You're right.
It's
I'm
like
wrong.
it's.
I forgot you had that drop. That's awesome.
That was good. And Jeffrey is here with us.
Yay! And we are watching the brand new TV show, just came out the other day, Why, The Last Man, on Hulu. Also,
I'll do you one better.
FX.
When the Last Man.
Hey, I see what you did there. You made it a funny little play on words.
Audience, real quick before we get into this whole thing, we are going to talk about Why the Last Man. But I have a real quick note here. Apparently, there's big controversy on Jeopardy because the guy who's winning recently is not saying what is or who is that. He's saying what's that or who's that.
Oh, that's weird.
And it's bothering the crap out of people who are watching. And apparently it's allowed. They Jeopardy explained it on their Twitter. And they said that the only rule is that it does not have to be grammatically correct or anything. It just has to be in the form of a question, which makes me realize it just has to be in the form of any question. I can say when is the capital of
I was literally just thinking when is Ulysses S.
Is
Grant?
it? You can say is it is it Europe? You can say they definitely said you could say that. So I'm can you say why is the answer Europe?
You can be the funny guy on Jeopardy.
Yeah,
I think at that point they bring out the firing squad.
or even better, in the form of a question. Doesn't that just mean it ends in a question mark? So can I just raise my voice
Europe?
Can I
Europe?
Can I just be Europe? Can I just shrug as I say it?
Dude, that'd be fucking awesome. Now I want to get on Jeopardy. Just to troll the audience. That sounds amazing. But we are
really uppity.
Speaking of recent television, Why the Last Man? Yay! So this was a comic book or graphic novel back in 2002, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by help me
No
out
relation
here.
to Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, no relation to Vince Vaughn. Who was the illustrator? I don't remember.
You know what? I don't remember the illustrator.
You know what? We're great people. We're really prepared. So, Brian K. Vaughan wrote this amazing graphic novel back in 2002 called Why the Last Man, which takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where a mysterious cataclysmic event simultaneously killed every mammal with a Y chromosome, except for one that we know of, named Yorick Brown, who in the show is played by Ben Schnetzer, and also his pet monkey Ampersand, who's a little capuchin monkey, and he's fucking adorable. And the series basically starts off following around Yorick and his entire life and his girlfriend Beth. And after the world ends, the world doesn't end. After all the men die, which might as well be the world ending. Am I right, gentlemen?
I mean, are there any?
You almost called us ladies.
I almost said ladies and gentlemen. Honestly,
Are there any? Are there any podcasts left at this point? If
yeah, right. Once you take away all the pompous dudes who own microphones, what happens to all the podcasts? Suddenly, there's nothing left.
I think the ghost of Joe Rogan would continue to record a podcast.
He's just the worms that have been dewormed out of him will just.
He's had so much alpha brain that he lives on in the next plane of existence.
He lives on. He's like all tomorrows.
So Yorick's basically just trying to find his girlfriend Beth, because they had a fight before the cataclysmic event, and she was supposed to go to Australia, and it's unclear whether or not she actually went before it happened. Because in the comic, she actually does go to Australia, and she's on her way back when the event happens. But here, it seems like the event's happening before the Australia trip. So it does take some liberties from the comics, but not in a bad way.
The first episode, I believe, is called the day before or something like that.
The first episode is called The Day Before. That's correct.
And it's they jump around with the time, right? They're jumping around. It starts with saying 6 days later or 6 weeks later, and then it's the day before. and then it's like, and most of this is taking place the day before. But then then we jump into these other episodes and it's kind of moving around. But like I believe in this episode, you saw a little bit of the post-apocalypse, and then you see it jump back and forth.
Yes.
So you're getting a lot of like day before stuff, but then you're clearly jumping around. And I do feel like the show does a good job of kind of like, well, let me put it this way. They're absolutely not telling you shit, right?
No,
like,
no.
This is a super like show don't tell type of show.
Troy would love that shit.
Right. And it's like they don't explain really anything going on, especially when we get to like and are we doing all three?
Yeah, why not? We'll just do all three real quick because there's the first one and the second one can kind of bleed into one that we don't really need to take too much time on. That third one though has a little bit of meat to it.
It gets weird because they do a good job of doing that. I'm glad that they're not kind of telling me what's going on, like specifically, like for instance, just jumping ahead a little bit, like there's the point where I think it's in the second episode. What is eventually kind of revealed to be a trans person, a trans man.
Yes.
Is blowing my mind because they were already jumping back and forth in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they jump to like a number of dudes, right, who are very clearly dudes, and I'm pretty confident are played by not a trans man or not and not a woman. It's just played by a Y chromosomed man. And which immediately just kind of put all of the plot itself into a stupor for me because I'm just like, I know when Y the Last Man the comic was out, the trans movement was not as vocal.
Yeah, they
or
specifically added in the whole trans thing to the show.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's not even in the text at all.
It's mentioned briefly.
recall.
There's a section on Wikipedia about it where the text mentions that transgender people, while they did not feature heavily in the comic, it was mentioned that trans men survived due to not having Y chromosomes, and the producers aimed to enlarge in that and take a better look at it and figure out like, oh well, what?
So Jeffrey, earlier today
they try to they try to allude to it very early on in that conversation when the trans men show up. I just don't think they did it well at all.
Yeah, they did not. It wasn't until the next time that they show up that he says, "I need the hormones."
Yes.
And that was like the only kicker that I was like, because first of all, you don't look.
In the first
like,
conversation, they mentioned going to see their transphobic grandma.
Yes, they did mention going up north to live with one of them had a transphobic grandmother.
Is what I mean.
But it's like that's not really much of a.
It's all showing, not telling, and that's just a little bit too much. Not like that could be that could be just a a line that you throw at them. But I mean, I guess I get it. But the choice to, and I have to assume because. I feel like every time a trans person is been shown on television, I have a pretty confident idea. There's a few, I think, trans women that have been like very hard to tell, but I don't think I've seen a single trans man that I couldn't at least somewhat have some inkling that was the case, right? So I'm assuming that the person playing this character is indeed a male in the traditional sense and is a Y chromosome male.
Yeah, Elliott.
I'm trying to be light here, but like
you are. So Elliott Fletcher is the actor you're talking about, and he is one of two children, both voice actors. Fletcher is a trans man who came out shortly after his 17th birthday.
That's crazy.
So it is a trans actor.
He is a trans actor. He looks absolutely like I would have never ever. That's the first time I can. You're seeing it in real time here. Of him saying, absolutely, wow, amazing.
Damn.
Good for him.
Yeah, for real, good
awesome.
stuff.
Like because it's just it was just a thing. There was a lot to absorb in this episode, and it felt like that was really difficult to tell, and I was very confused. But maybe that was the purpose. So good on them. But like we were talking about earlier, Jeff, kind of alluding to, as we sat there and said, "Oh wait, save it for the pod," as we started. talking about this
in
episode.
real life.
I was like, look, because we can't repeat ourselves ever. If I've said it once in life, I can't possibly repeat myself ever.
No.
But no, it was.
Wait,
then
did
you're
you
a
two watch
poser.
this together?
No. I was at his house doing some tech support, and we were talking about the show because I had just finished watching the first episode, and I was like, "Oh, we should say this in the podcast," and he was like, "Why? We can't say the same thing over again? It's us. We'd be quoting ourselves," and it's fucking hilarious. It was a really really good point.
So yeah, it's just good. So so I was saying how this feels similar to The Boys, right?
Yes.
In a sense.
No.
The difference being that like the boys comic was goofier. Like it was kind of like it had a very different tone, I would say. Even though the tone in a lot of ways is the same, the tone changes. It's almost like if the comic book was written by a more like right wing side of the spectrum, where it was just a little bit more aggressive, kind of edgelordy. And you know, it had its moments and its coolness, but like it was a little too full of itself for that. And then whereas the show obviously comes off, I think, as a little bit more like woke side of things and left leaning, and you know, it mixes the two things well, and it's sleeker, right? And the art is kind of goofy in the comic, and it's much sleeker and kind of like polished in this show, and it does a lot to kind of change the whole feel of it and make it actually a lot better, in my opinion. The Why the Last Man is from its nature a little bit like less goofy from the start and a little bit more serious of a take. It's much more like Walking Dead, the comic, that it was clean. It was clean in the sense of like the artwork was clean. It was like very straightforward. It wasn't kind of a goofy style. And it was very well acclaimed. Like it wasn't trying to be edgy. It wasn't trying to do these things. It was trying to make like political, you know, stances that seemed there. And then this seems to be kind of definitely in the same way that The Boys really changed the arc of all this stuff and the focus and made it something very different. This seems to be doing something similar, though not as, it doesn't have to change as much, but it's definitely kind of feels different. It feels the same, but it definitely feels like they're doing a similar thing. So it definitely felt like I was watching like good Walking Dead.
That's exactly the vibes I got originally.
Lost,
I was like, this feels like The Walking Dead, but I'm not bored.
It was funny enough, I also thought it was like The Walking Dead, but it's the very, very bad parts of The Walking Dead.
Really?
I hated this show.
You hated this whole show?
I thought it's so fucking boring.
Really?
Yeah, and this was a chore to watch. Troy, what's your take?
Mother Earth kind of a MILF, though.
Great, perfect.
Like to fuck the planet. Yeah. No, I can't believe you. That's incredible for me to hear. Oh my goodness,
I love post-apocalyptic tales. This sucks.
Really? Like what specifically? Like what's not really doing it for you?
So they're introducing all of these characters, but the characters aren't doing anything. They're just talking for like the first episode. The first episode, you can watch the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes, and you're good. The entire middle part of that,
like, literally, like, turn around and like go for a run and then like explode an entire place. Like,
yeah, that's why I said watch the first 10 minutes. That's in the first 10 minutes. Like that part's great. Like, at the end, when Hero kills the guy, that's great. There's nothing else in that first episode. The part where everybody dies, that's cool.
I'm so confused. Like, I mean, I don't know. Did you like? I mean, there's a lot of shows where like quote unquote nothing happens. Like they're just talking. Like that's kind of how many things do you want to happen? Like most shows are just people talking.
Right. I viewed it a little differently. I viewed it as they were setting up all these different characters as in their roles that they will fulfill in the rest of the episodes. Like for example, Kimberly, who is the president's daughter. She is very much just like a mother of a bunch of boys, and she has her husband, who's kind of a piece of crap, wimp, whatever. He's very like passive, sitting there on the couch, and that's kind of like her whole personality. And she's also an author who's written this book about how we're teaching our boys to not be boys anymore in America, and they're afraid to
gosh,
even
this is
touch a
weird.
woman because they might get accused of something and unravel their whole lives or whatever. It's an argument I've heard before. It holds no water, but this is who this person is. And then we see her again in the second episode after everything's unraveling. I'm sorry, was it the second episode, third episode? They all blended together. Doesn't matter. The next time we see her, she doesn't really have... she's trying to get President Brown, who's the new president, to save the sperm bank in New York City. And it's like her whole thing because she wants to restart the population. She wants there to be men again because she doesn't feel like she has a purpose anymore. And I got that from watching her like be a mom. Like that was her whole life, was being a mom to these boys. And now they're gone and her husband is gone. She has nothing. And she desperately wants it back. So it kind of planted the seeds for her to be this villain character maybe down the road where she's like very, very forcefully opposing the president in trying to achieve her own ends of restarting the population. So I enjoyed watching her, even though I dislike this character. And all the other characters we saw in the first episode, they all had their own different stories that built up their personalities. And it makes me think... Yeah. It puts me in their heads for the second and third episodes, and I'm just like, oh, we're looking at Agent 355. I can kind of figure out what she's thinking based on what I know about her watching her in the previous episodes.
Just back off a second. I have to call Chris out of it. Like, come on, the rats scene. There's like a ton of animals dying throughout the course of this show. It felt like the first episode. I remember just being 20 minutes in and being like, all right, I'm definitely enjoying this because this is like a boiler pot. This is like a tension builder. This is a slow burn.
Yeah.
I just, what's coming, and you can see like the rats are dying, or the rat, like that rat scene, like, whoa, like that was fucked
you
up.
get to see like all
then,
the animals that are dying like in the first 10 minutes, and then there's the rat scene.
And I thought that was a really cool add-on because I do not think that is not at all the way it happens in the comics, and I thought that was a really neat thing to get introduced. They have a lot of characters introduced. They want to introduce obviously these characters early on. I don't know that they needed to, right? I think they introduced a lot of characters in the first episode, the second episode, and you could take the Game of Thrones approach where you kind of take your time and build, season to season some of these character arcs.
As long as you don't shit the bed at the last season.
Because like for instance, the one thing I can say, Chris, is that the slowest. I don't know where. I really don't recall any of the characters in the show besides Yorick, his mom, a little bit of Hero, and what is her name? The agent.
Agent 355 is like the closest we get to a real name, but Sarah is her current cover.
Yeah. So and that character is cool. Like I dig that character a lot. And then you get like actually what's her name? Huey's girlfriend who exploded from. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Robin's character or actor
from The Boys fame.
I saw her and I was like, "Oh shit!"
The rat scene. Yeah.
Famously, did not explode in this first episode.
The rat scene.
Yeah, famously still alive.
So, and then the what's his name? The one you were talking about just a little bit ago, and the president's wife, I think, and like.
Yes.
You get the president who doesn't last long and all this other stuff, but the thing being that like these characters, they're the only other character that was like seemingly useless throughout these 3 episodes, and I'm just not understanding their arc yet. Is the president's assistant who pretends to be a gun toter and has the daughter, and they're kind of being rejected at the end, and I'm just like,
she's probably the worst character,
the absolute worst character, and I'm just wondering like. Crap, am I forgetting something from the TV show where she has this great arc and they're because sometimes I think people can get in the mentality.
No, she just pulls the Karen card on the fucking guards at the wherever they are.
Dude, that was so funny.
Well, hold on a sec, because they have the like. I'm wondering is like when they have a character, and this is what Walking Dead had a problem with. When they had a character they knew was cool, they knew has this great arc, they would kind of just like assume that the audience knows that that's happening, and they would just let you kind of like they would just let that character sit and move, and they wouldn't actually like show those. They would be like, it doesn't matter what we do, we'll show these scenes that were in the comic, even though they may not have actually been good. just to kind of because everyone's gonna love this character no matter what they do because they're a beloved character, and it's like no, you have to make this interesting. You can't just rely on the fact that like this character did something else, because if you don't know that, then this character is just nonsense. Like I didn't. What was I supposed to care? Like just there's a story of somebody who's kind of again left behind. She's clearly not being like she. It was the point where the girl runs to like hit her I guess her brother and father or something with a shovel.
To scare
and
the
she
crows
just
away.
immediately cracks her knee. I'm like, give me a fucking break. Like this is stupid. Like this is bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
There were moments like that.
That
for
was
sure.
There wasn't a moment when her character was on screen that I was like very interested after the first episode. I was interested to see kind of what she was doing, lying, saying she was a gun toter and kind of this pressure that she's under. But other than that,
I was originally of Jeff's mindset saying like, oh, they're just probably building up their characters for like the second episode. And then the second episode, I think, might be just as bad as the first because they set up some great pieces and then whiff time and time again. So, like the first one with York and the dry cleaners, where he gets held at gunpoint. That's like a really cool thing where he can, like, I don't know, escape or something, or talk his way out of it. They just let him go. The last man that they know.
You say no?
I agree with you. So two things. One is that Yorick is.
He's a loser.
I didn't get this strong of an impression. I kind of got he is like a hapless loser in the comics, but he is much more lovable. And in this, he is like this fucking beta male, like crybaby.
He's a beta male.
That
he is a cuck.
Really kind. He is a
cuck in a world where he cannot be cucked.
He was endearing. He was much more endearing he's much more endearing in the comic, it feels like. And he does not come off like he's not bad, don't get me wrong, he's not the worst, but he's so hapless that like that scene I don't expect him to get out of there or talk his way out or do something like heroic. Like that's not him. He should never have got in the stupid sewer water that he probably has salmonella. They say like he has like he's like I feel like my skin's gonna come off. I'm like you might be dead. Like, you might literally die now because you got in that stupid water to look for your dumb fucking ampersand. Like, your monkey. Like, I don't... whatever. Like, whatever. But it's fine. Then if he's so hapless, don't make the whole scene hapless, because it definitely didn't play right. You're 100% right. When he goes in there, it doesn't make sense. I get what they were kind of going for. The one woman is like, we could trade you, we could have you. And the other women are like, don't do this,
here's what should happen. He should have gotten caught, and Agent 355 should have learned that, oh, he's alive, and freed him. That's how that scene should play out.
I don't mind if that doesn't play out, because
that's my other problem with the second episode. Is because they set Agent 355 to be up to be a badass, and then she does nothing in the second episode that reinforces that. She goes into New York City and just stumbles across Yorick.
I do think the stumbling across Yorick was a little weird, but she was also kind of like she was also looking for him. He was at Hero's house.
It makes sense story-wise. It does not make sense pacing-wise.
I thought it made some sense. I don't think she should have saved him there, because in that episode, the first episode, you watch her double cross people. She's super shady and she explodes. She kills people. And in the third episode, she does very similar shit. So
yes,
arguably. So the second episode was about kind of humanizing her in a lot of ways, and I don't think she needed to have another fucking action scene, because I think that we'd just be sitting here complaining about, okay, I get it, she's a badass, and I don't need her to be rescued. I think easily the scene that we're talking about with the laundromat is that they could have started arguing and gotten to a thing, and he could have just run out and done it, not just been allowed to leave. Like, that's the difference.
That works better.
You didn't. You just have it was just weird, and I didn't understand it, and I didn't understand in the end why they were leaving. And this is where like some of the show don't tell stuff doesn't really work. I'm not following what they're doing. And I think you're supposed to be just confused like Yorick would be, right? Like not knowing what they're saying, not knowing what's going on, and just kind of like... Mm-hmm. But then that makes sense to like him just to run away in the ether, not to be let go. And it was just weird. So I get some of the pacing of things. But the second episode was, I think, really about his mother, right? I mean, that stuff, the continuation of the presidency and how they did this, and I think it's somewhere in the second episode that, like, they revealed that the true person who's in the line of succession is still alive. And there's just, like, really interesting
no, that's third episode.
Okay, so you know, let's say that maybe the second episode drug a little bit. I thought absolutely the first episode was a lot of exposition, but a good tension builder. And by the third episode, I'm definitely intrigued because, like, 355 is pretty cool, man. I mean, like, I thought for sure
I just wish
that
we had
she was
more.
gonna kill those pilots. When she left the room, she's like, "I'll take care of the pilots," and then she gives them medals, and she made me fucking believe that she was that was her plan. That she was like pushing on their patriotism and their like authority, and then she fucking just clearly kills them.
She wasted a helicopter.
I like that she doesn't. I like that the show doesn't quite tell you exactly what happened, but I think we are absolutely told enough to get the idea that, like, oh, she sabotaged the plane or the helicopter in some way, and she killed them because she couldn't trust them to die. They did a good job telling that story.
Yeah.
So, Chris or Jeff,
I'm so glad we have conflict. I was so worried. Oh. Like
Jeff, what did you like about this? What was the
I'm upset that Chris did not enjoy it as much as we have clearly enjoyed it, but at the same time,
didn't enjoy it at all.
Am I happy for a little spiciness in the podcast? I think the problem that Chris has mostly is the pacing. If I'm not speaking out of school here, and it seems that
the pacing and the content.
The content. Put that aside for a second. It seems that these first 3 episodes are kind of built to be watched together, which is, it's not, I'm not saying Chris is wrong for thinking this way. I'm saying the studios are definitely being weird like this. Like,
they should not be hour-long episodes, if that's the case, and they should be condensed.
It should be maybe a little condensed if they're gonna do it this way. However, I think that The Boys had a similar problem. The difference being all of us thoroughly enjoyed The Boys and were sucked in.
Well, The Boys, like, there's actually things happening.
Yes, but hang on.
I mean,
I think the studios, when they build these like direct-to-streaming almost TV shows that are supposed to be like new every week, and then they release 3 as like the pilot almost. Like you're supposed to take those 3 hours as your pilot. Like you're supposed to watch that beginning to end, and that's supposed to hook you for the next week. And that is a problem because who's going to dedicate 3 hours to a show they're iffy on? Like you're only going to give it half an hour or an hour at most. And if you're not hooked,
I think
then...
what you're. It's not a. It's. I think more the case that you're saying is that they have a lot of story to tell.
Yeah.
And you can't just throw only the good stuff in and make it 2 episodes or 1 episode. Like, you have a lot of characters to build, you have a lot of characters to introduce. And like I said, I think you could very well like limit the number of characters you introduced in the first episode and second and just split them up. And tell the story in 2 different ways. You could have told the whole half. You could have, but then you're at another pacing issue where you come across like the first episode and the second episode all deal with the same time frame, and you haven't got any further in the story because you've just been introduced to characters for 2 episodes. So you're either learning who characters are, and this is where it becomes like, I think you're right, Jeff. Like you get to that 3rd episode and the exposition's done. Now they're going to tell stories, and I think they did a good job of like the tone, the tensions, the controversies, the kind of like political intrigue that's going on. So like, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here. There's a lot of like kind of CIA operative stuff that's going on, like CIA like wet works with 355. You have this kind of like hapless hero with Yorick. You have this political intrigue. Like, how do you kind of like Game of Thrones? It's very Game of Thrones post-apocalypse stuff. And what it reminds me of, in a lot of ways, is like it's a nice mixture of like, okay, we never see this in a zombie movie where like everybody's dead and it's like, okay, where is the government? Like the government always is just gone. And it's like, no. You would have a government. It would just be that they would have complete disorganization and they would have a lot of like inner turmoil as to like who's actually in charge. And you never see that in a zombie type of thing. I've never seen that kind of play out. I've only seen that like in a Walking Dead where it's like months or years later where the people that you've been following are now trying to restart civilization and they're trying to do that stuff. I never see like, oh yeah, a bunch of the government would be alive. Like, it's always just they die and it's all gone. And it's like, that is really interesting to be like, how is that line of succession working? I mean, like, they're packing a lot of different stuff in. The fact that it's all female-led and how would they deal with this, along with, like, the kind of inner turmoil and trauma of, like, literally, like, how does this even work? Like, them all sitting there going, I miss these men, and them just saying, like, what are we even going to do? Like, what are we even saving this for? Because what the hell? And they're just like, I'm just concentrated on the living right now. I'm just trying to figure out what we'll get to that step next. Let's just get this shit back on the road, which has a lot of interesting parallels to all kinds of real life stuff where it's like, we're just sitting there focused on the moment that we're not even looking at like, well, wait, where are we going with this in the first one? Why get everything back up and running if the system is not designed to get us a place we need to be? Why restart that system? I think we've been dealing with this the entire pandemic. So this is kind of a, I feel like this show had to be greenlit before COVID.
It got greenlit in October 2015.
See,
it got greenlit a long time ago.
When did they put it into production? When did they be like, oh shit? Was it like literally March 2020 where they were like, okay, let's finally pull the trigger
I'm sorry.
on this? Cause
production began in 2015, and it got like really going in 2017. That's when they got scripts together and casting and stuff. So
they've obviously been building this for a while.
Yeah.
They've had like 6 years with this on the burner, and then was it 4 years like actually producing it?
It's a long process to get a show going. I don't know if you know that.
Plus,
but
there's some.
And this is what they came out with.
Oh, so in I'm reading a little bit more about it. So in 2019, a couple people involved with the show higher up exited, with creative differences being the reason. So they had to restructure that. The showrunners left. They had to get a new showrunner. And Eliza Clark was it in June of 2019.
Yeah.
So.
This seems like, this makes sense. It does seem like there's some disjointed, but in that case, I do think it does a good job. I mean, I enjoyed I enjoyed it. I kept wanting to. I want it more when I was done, so I could say that. And it wasn't the most fast paced show in the world, but I definitely was enjoying it. And I just think, Chris, you're probably just misogynistic. You probably just don't really.
Oh, that's definitely true.
Engaging on screen, it's probably what your issue is.
Yeah, come on, Chris.
I kid.
Get off YouTube and 4chan.
I'm just a balding sexist.
Yeah, stop listening to Tucker Carlson. Ivermectin.
Listen to some Tucker. Whatever.
Yeah, go drink your
deworm
horse.
my horse, if you know what I mean.
So it's actually a paste. It's not a thing you can drink. So it's this paste that you have to ingest, and you gotta. Oh God, people are stupid.
It's just so delicious.
Oh, it tastes like Lucky Charms.
Wait, it's for horses?
Yeah,
and it's a paste.
Did you not know ivermectin? Yeah. Did you not know ivermectin was
Say that,
for horses?
But slower.
Horse paste? Wait, 'cause horses are used to make glue? Is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
Okay, I see what you're doing now.
Jesus.
Yeah,
you feed the horses back to themselves.
Oh, Jesus. Dark. Yikes. That is a little bit dark.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, that's like when they say flat earthers are, all, we flat earthers are all around the globe. Someone's like, say that again, but slower.
That's really funny.
You're right. I mean, in the end, I think there's like 5 scenes maybe that really stuck with me on the show. that I thought were like really cool. But like I think they did a good job. First of all, who's playing the president?
Jennifer Brown. That's Diane Lane.
Diane Lane. Great, so good.
Dude, right?
I'm even wondering if the writer had her in mind when writing the character, because I feel like the if I recall correctly, she looks like her in the comic, really well. Otherwise, they just did a great job of kind of doing the look of it.
I gotta say, all my problems with the show, the acting is not one of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The acting is really spot
They're all
on.
doing a damn fine job. I just
and
wish the material was better.
The special effects I thought were pretty good. The males puking up blood, and the dog that was puking up blood, and like all that stuff.
Yeah, like the
Great.
darkened veins,
like
shortly before they
love
die.
Yeah, it was really good. Really gross.
Yeah.
And the woman. Okay, so this is where I was like, I was, this is a show where it's like it's literally all women except for one dude, and I'm like, Gabby, you should you're gonna like this. I think it has a lot of strong female characters, all this stuff, and I get to it, and then there's the scene in the opening, I guess, where this young mother is just carrying her son, who's maybe like 10, and just being like, my baby, oh my baby, and it's just so visceral, and I'm like,
yeah.
oh gosh, nah, you can't watch this. It's because that's literally our boy. It's just like that's not gonna fly. But that was like they did a nice slow burn and then really hit you in the head with it. And come on, that hero killing her lover before the thing starts, like, I thought a really, really solid thing. I was like, what happens if you kill somebody and you're left with all the guilt, but you can totally get away with it, and it's not even anybody's priority. Like, yet you still have to live.
I didn't like that she got away with it.
So if it makes you feel any better, Chris, that whole plot line does not exist in the comics. In the comics, Hero was just banging some firefighter dude, and he wasn't married with a baby. They were just like banging, and she didn't kill him. Like, he just died. So I mean, that was written for the show.
One thing I can say is that it was a little dramatic. But the other thing that bothered me about it was that for all the show don't tell that they have, and as well as and as good as the shooting and the editing and the cinematography was throughout the show, there's like this instance, and I can't remember another, but it was there, where I'm just like, the camera movement was so off-putting, where she goes to hit him. Why couldn't you show him get hit? It was like, and I know they were trying to like do a reveal of some sort, but like it didn't work. Like, she gets angry in the ambulance, goes to hit him, and like I had no idea what the only reason I knew what was happening is because of her reaction, and I'm like, how did you shoot this so poorly or so weirdly that like it wasn't clear at first that he was like gonna like that she had like hit him in a way, like I just didn't buy it. It seemed odd that like this one little movement that she makes would kill this person, and if you were gonna tell me that story, then you had to show me that story, like show me that like how does this kind of like little toss of a fire extinguisher pinch his jugular? Like
that was weird.
Mean, fine if it does, but shoot that scene. You pan the camera and he wasn't even in shot when it's hit, and that's a weird way to tell that story, especially when you're doing this pressure cooker episode that should culminate with that, right? That's like the moment where she's just like intense, and the guy knocking on the door, the cop knocking on the door, is literally, and she's covered in blood. That all worked for me. I'm like, oh fuck, you're so fine. Like, but I also know what's coming, and then he stops knocking on the door, and it begins.
Yep,
that's the pressure cooker moment. You could show him like cut his jugular. I don't understand why you didn't if you're going to tell that story. And I'm not saying I need to see gore. I'm saying that like that just didn't. It just felt so off and weird and bad. It felt like it was a scene that you couldn't show because you couldn't do it. Like, you couldn't make it look right. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. How did you guys feel about that scene? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well,
I mean,
Chris has some thoughts. I'll let him speak first.
So I watched the first 2 episodes back to back with my girlfriend. We both disliked the show, by the way. And it
Sweet.
calls back to like with Yorick and the dry cleaners, is that both of those characters face no consequences. I mean, aside from the guilt that Hero will feel for killing Mike. I mean, like, she killed this guy, gets away scot-free.
I mean, she
Like,
carries that guilt
doesn't
around.
feel good to me.
No,
that's no, right, Chris. What I would say is that, like, if I understand Hero's character, is that what she's this kind of tracks for the character, but I can understand if it didn't like register yet. Like what that's setting up is like her origin of being like survivor's guilt or just guilt in and of itself. She has guilt, and it's not the fact that she gets away with it. It's that even if somebody knows exactly what happened, right? They wouldn't fucking care. It's not a priority anymore. Except the wife or whatever. If she as far as she finds out, like they were just together when it happened, and the dude was gonna die anyway. So like the problem is that there is no repercussion for it. It doesn't matter if she killed him. He was going to die seconds later anyway. So it's a situation where she doesn't even get to experience other people saying you're wrong. She has to do it herself. So this is like an inward thing that's going to just keep eating at her. And I do think her story arc is very interesting because of like the self-flagellation that a person goes to when they feel like they've done something and they don't feel like they've been punished. Like they don't feel like they've what can they do? Like she could like tell people I killed a man, and they're just going to be like, when? Like right before the pin, like, well, they would have died anyway. Like that's the weirdness of it, is like what happens when you do something that you know is wrong, but yet it doesn't matter to anybody. And like you actually want to be punished or you want to feel something for it, but it's not a priority for anyone. Like I think it's a very interesting question to look at. And that's why I was kind of intrigued by this character.
Mm-hmm.
But
I can see
even
it
with Mike's
if they didn't
spouse.
tell that story.
Even with Mike's spouse, she's just like, oh, I knew he was banging someone. Oh well, have a nice day.
Yeah, it seemed weird.
Like,
but I think that was supposed to
yell at her or something. Give her like some reason to feel bad aside from her own self.
I mean,
I think
on one hand, I
don't
agree
think
with
they
you.
needed to do that. I think what they were trying to do was show you that
Really, I'm just fishing for anything to fucking happen.
I know what you're saying, but like I think what they were trying to show, which they did a poor job showing, is the situation I was just explaining, which is that she came to her and gave her this looking for someone to yell at her, for someone to fuck her over, and she didn't. That's what they were trying to tell there, and I don't think they
should have done that moment from the first episode of The Boys where Huey has that scene where he imagines yelling at the guy. They should have had a scene where she imagines her yelling at her, and then that doesn't happen. Yeah. Like, do something with it.
It's a different feel. It's a different feel, but
it's
remember,
a bad feel.
You know that scene. It's played for the Boys has a gallows humor to it that this show doesn't. They don't have that kind of humor, and that's what that scene was played for. I think they did a poor job telling the story. I'm hopeful that as the show gets its footing, it will highlight some of the things that is that storytelling better.
Are you trying to say the show that opened with a boy holding his girlfriend's severed arms has gallows humor?
It does.
Okay, just asking.
Spoiler.
It's the very first episode. It's like the first 2 minutes.
By the way, they did wrap production. Just in case.
I saw, because I follow all the actors individually on like Instagram and Twitter and all that. And
something interesting.
Erin Moriarty tweeted out like pictures of them like out at dinner and stuff, and she was like, "Hey, we wrapped," and I'm just like, "Yes."
This is why I had like some disagreement, because I think Chris's criticisms are right.
Oh, I think Chris is valid.
I was enjoying the show, but there was definitely things that I felt were weak on it and could have been better. And yeah, if you're not kind of impressed by the rest of it, then these scenes are really going to drag. And I don't know that the show has come out like gangbusters or anything. But I do think that Why the Last Man is going to gain an audience, and I think there's going to be a bunch of people that kind of blow it off right away because of this. Because, if Chris isn't, all in like we are, then there's going to be a ton of people that aren't as well. But I think this is an interesting thing, and I want to give it a couple more episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because they're building some drama with Kim and Marla, who are the former president's wife and daughter. They're trying to take power from Jennifer Brown, who's the assumed president now. And it doesn't help that in the third episode we find out that one of the people in the line of succession actually survived, and she's in Israel.
With a severe head injury.
Yeah, but, she's alive.
I'm glad that they at least called that out. Why the fuck would we let this person be president? They have a severe head injury.
Yes. Right. But with Kim trying to take power from Jennifer, I can see it absolutely being a piece to play.
Like a proxy war.
Yeah.
She's using this because it's her only chess move to play, and she has to play it. Because I like the backstory that the person was nominated only because there was it was one of those decisions they made to win over voters.
Yeah.
But the only reason she's even in the line of succession is because of that, and she was never. She would have, under normal circumstances, never become. This would have never been an issue. But so she wasn't a choice. But these are I like that question. Are we just putting that aside because it's not convenient? And these are real questions that I think
they are.
Dealing with. So I think that the show is setting itself up to really delve with some interesting political kind of controversy, and I think we're all in the mindset to kind of enjoy that. And then the post-apocalypse, I thought they did great with tension building. I thought they did great with special effects. I think there's a lot to be seen in this, and as this kind of post-apocalyptic world that we really haven't seen before. I mean, the closest thing we have to it is a zombie apocalypse or something. There's a couple shows.
It is very refreshing to see an apocalypse scenario where the dead are not a threat.
Right, but yet you still have all of these riots, and you have just chaos, and it is empty places. It's an old west. Zombie movies are the way that that people do westerns now. It's the only way to kind of take our modern society and then make everything a ghost town. Literally a ghost town, and to kind of rebuild. And what's funny?
I was just thinking about fucking Clint Eastwood walking up onto a zombie, just this town ain't big enough for the two of us, zombie.
As the zombie starts chewing into Clint Eastwood's fucking chiseled neck.
Now you just hold on a minute. We need to count for the draw.
I'm suddenly not nearly as impressed with all the times I made you laugh, Jeff. Man. So yeah, no, I think that but and you do have a lot of dead. You do have a lot of macabre, and I do think that you're right, Chris. Again, they would do a better. This show would probably be better if they leaned into a little of the gallows humor, and I feel like Yorick's character is supposed to do that, and he's just so gosh darn
I feel like
gooey.
There was an attempt because in episode 3 in the beginning he has that bit where he's running around and trying to find the monkey, and then Marla catches him and he's in this sealed off wing of the Pentagon where there's a bunch of just dead men in their chairs and on the floor, and he's upstairs with his mom again and he's just there's dead people, and she's yeah, this place is big, we're getting around to it, and he's just what the hell, and I'm just okay, so is this trying to be funny, or is this him genuinely being upset and she's just genuinely what's the deal?
Without that gallows humor and with nothing interesting occurring to me, this show's just fucking depressing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's the point, to be depressing.
What you're looking at is okay, so a similar character we have is Huey, right? Huey is a Yorick-esque character that freaks out in these moments, and he gets covered in blood, and they do it. But the tone of that show, when he gets covered in blood, when someone explodes on him, and he has to deal with it, there's a disconnect that you're allowed to feel, because I guess I'm supposed to take the show seriously, not literally, type of thing. Whereas, like, in this show, I am supposed to take it both seriously and literally. And I don't think it allows for that, because you have, like, people shooting lasers out of their eyes at one moment. Then you can also have somebody kind of doing an over-the-top reaction to something. Both of those things are allowed in the boys' universe, and it works in the tone. You can't have that same kind of, like, goofiness when you're supposed to be grounded, you know, in reality. And that's the difficult task of a show like this, where it's like you got to try to, like, build this up and still have it. And that's the thing that, like, at Game of Thrones, you can do all that political intrigue, but you also have dragons, and you also have, like, undead things, and you also have these things. And there's nothing else supernatural in this show except for the fact that, like, we don't know what the fuck caused everyone with a Y chromosome to die. Did I say that right?
Yeah, the Y
I
chromosome.
always mix up which chromosome is which.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Y, the last man.
Yeah. What? So any theories, as without Jeff, who I know just loves to spoil himself, and I actually don't know the answer to this.
I don't know the answers either. I didn't spoil myself this time.
So, like, any guesses as to what do you think? What do you think caused this to happen?
So I accidentally, well, not so accidentally, I was looking at, like, reviews to try and figure out what's supposed to be good about this show, and I sort of got a spoiler, I think, in that in the graphic novels they do not ever explain.
Don't say it.
Oh,
okay. So so fair enough. In the comics they never explain it. Great. So we never know. That's fine though. I don't know that we even get that in The Walking Dead either. It's not like it's an integral thing to know.
That's funny, because in The Walking Dead they, like, cock teased us for, like, 6 years about, like, oh, we're gonna figure it out, and then they just never brought it up again. So, like, I don't understand what that was all about.
In The Walking Dead,
I thought they did. May have just been the first season, but
they
they
only do the first season. That's the only time they really go into, like, the origins of the whatever the fuck happened.
It's been so many years since I read those comics and watched that show that I've completely forgotten.
I mean, that in the comics they don't even go to the CDC.
There was a great just so you know, they don't go to the CDC, but the one of the greatest characters in the comic is there's a character in the show that's, like, still going on, I think, but, like, it's the guy with the
guy
mullet
that Abraham's supposed to be protecting.
Eugene, right?
Yeah.
And in the comic, it's so much better. They do the same storyline. It just works better in the comic the way they played it, because they did cock tease you with the idea that, like, he's like, I'm in the CIA. I did this, and I know exactly what's going on. It's top secret. I'm getting to the president, and, like, they suddenly it turned, and you never expected that to happen for them to do this, and it was a little hard to believe, but they sold it really well. They sold it really well that I don't think even I don't think they ever did this scene in the show, which was crazy to me, because it was the only scene that made me believe this stuff, because Eugene is this, like, fat, overweight, like mulleted guy, and they're like, are you trying to get us to believe that you're some CIA dude, like this and that? And he's like, yeah, as soon as all this happened, what do you think I was going to do? Do you think I should have looked like my best part, like in my suit and tie and doing this? No, I grew a mullet so no one would take me seriously, so no one would be after me. I have intensive information that I need to get there, and he just sold it really well. And,
he's a fast talker.
Wrote it really well. And it just, like, it made sense in the context, and you were like, oh shit, like, okay. And he had, like, some quirky maneuver, and he was smart. But, like, again, I don't know that this show has, like, let itself get there yet, but I really want to give it the leeway, because I really enjoyed the kind of political intrigue and, like, the real down to earth questions of, like, have you not gotten rid of these bodies yet?
So,
like, there are absolutely criticisms for her to, like, be dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And then also, like, I also don't know if I should blame them, because it's a really tough job. And then it's like, yeah, but would you do that if the other guy was in charge? Sorry, the other lady.
Well, so my only real criticism I have of this show is that I don't really know what it's trying to be, but I am curious enough to stick around and find out, because it feels like it's trying to wear several hats where it has the political intrigue and backstabbing of Game of Thrones, and then also the survivors and trying to make it through day to day as Walking Dead. And it feels like they looked at a couple really good shows and tried to mix them. And I think that's where Chris is finding his lack of interest, because it's trying too hard to be certain other things, and it's not really achieving either of them very well yet. But I'm curious to see where it goes, at the very least.
How many episodes are in this first season?
8.
Assuming it gets a second season?
I believe there are... Oh, I'm sorry, there are 7 total. 7 total.
7's not bad. There's 4 episodes more. We could even do a 4-episoder at the end.
Yeah. Episode 6 is called Weird Al is Dead, and that just sounds funny to me.
Oh, he would be dead, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh,
No, he's weird enough to survive. He's weird enough to survive, but then die in some other way.
Bill Murray in Zombieland.
Pretty much.
I had a good life. Don't have any regrets, except for Garfield 2.
Maybe Garfield.
Maybe Garfield. That's what it was. Maybe Garfield.
You
That
know
was
my
such a good
favorite
joke.
Bill Murray moment. Bill Murray, the best Bill Murray thing in the world is the fact that some dude who he went up to and he walked past him in a an airport or something, and the guy was eating potato chips and or pretzels or something, and Bill Murray reaches into his bag, grabbed a potato chip, put it in his mouth, and was like, "No one will ever believe you."
Yep, he does that all the time.
That's his thing.
I love it.
It's amazing.
It's the greatest thing in the world. It's so good. But yeah, I want to give this show a try. I feel like the very least we could do probably is maybe wait, maybe do something like this where we wait until the next 3 drop, and then cover it after episode 6, and then see if everybody's in for watching the finale and cover the finale, and if we're not into it by then, no harm, no foul, but something like that.
Listen, this show is already wasted, and I'll be generous. I'll say 2.5 hours of my time. I'm being very generous.
Chris, it couldn't have possibly been that bad to you.
It was a chore to watch. I was dreading
355
watching
was
the third
cool,
episode.
though, right? 355 is cool.
Yeah, when she was actually on screen, the couple of times she has been.
I think she was on screen a good bit. In
the third episode, more so than the first 2.
Basically understand that what this show I think sets up is that you're gonna see it's Yorick and her on the road now. That's what the show is. Now,
if that's what the show will be, then it'll probably be a lot better.
Yeah,
if it's with the stuff with the Pentagon, I'm really not missing much.
Yeah, I do think that the show, the comic, starts to really get into its footing when they're on this track, right?
I did hear about that when I was accidentally spoiling myself, and then later you guys what happens in the graphic novel. So, I am so sorry.
So I do think that you get some really interesting world building from this. You get some really interesting factions that start to emerge in the female-ridden world. That's not the right word.
Female-populated world.
Who's the misogynist now, D?
Yeah, come on, man.
Still you.
I see that Tucker Carlson bow tie creeping up onto your neck.
Still you with the Let's Play shirt.
Okay.
So...
I think, honestly, the most damning evidence we have for this show is that we covered 3 episodes, and this episode of our podcast is barely going to be an hour long. And when we did 3 episodes of The Boys, it was 2 hours.
We didn't step through the moment to moment, and we
sure.
were very,
what is there to step
very
through?
Green at that point.
Jesus, you're just taking a big.
I don't know how hard
wrong.
I can stress this enough. I did not have a good time watching this.
The Boys does come out like gangbusters. Let's not compare things to The Boys.
Chris, would you rather eat an entire bowl of hot, wet shit or watch this show again?
Well, now you're being hyperbolic. So I'll go with the shit.
I thought you were going to say how big of a bowl. That's the funny follow-up. There you go. You're learning today, Chris. One other point that I wanted to point out real quick. The teleplay and directed by credits for each episode, all of them are women. There's not a single man on this list. So that's interesting.
Oh,
I don't know that I've
seen that
I would
before.
hope stuff
so.
done by women. I get it now.
Chris doesn't like stuff done by women. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I get it. He just hates women that does stuff. He just hates stuff produced by women. Okay, I get it. No. I'm just waiting. Like, I really want to cover this show because I just feel like Tucker Carlson hates it.
Oh
so
yeah,
much.
for sure. I guarantee he hates this show.
Wait,
and he's
am I
probably never
Tucker
seen it.
Am I Tucker Carlson in this, or are you actually talking about Tucker Carlson?
I'm actually talking about Tucker Carlson.
Why can't it be
But
both?
also Chris.
Yeah.
Has he actually said something about this show?
Sure he will. But I have heard that there's been tweets of see, they want all the men to die. They hate men.
I don't have a problem with the premise of this show. It's interesting. They're just not doing anything with it.
A quick Google of Tucker Carlson, Why the Last Man, gives me a lot of Spanish results. Interestino. Also a lot of reviews.
Did he join Ted Cruz and go down to Mexico?
No. Ted Cruz running away to Cancun and then blaming his daughter. Old news. That's fantastic. So apparently Chris hated this show. I'm pretty tepid on it. I'm willing to give it some more views before I make a final good or bad decision.
Yeah, we really. So this is where we really need Troy to get this, but like, he's out because he's pretty tired, and I think that he was a little too tired, a little burn the candle from both ends stuff. But so he had a hard time getting through the episodes. And I'm wondering, oh crap, were they boring? Because this seems like something that would be really up Troy's alley.
Yeah.
Let's all take a vote. What do we think, Troy? Will he give this 1, 2, 3, or 4 fingers up your bum?
I'm willing to bet he's a double finger. I'm willing to bet Troy's a double finger.
That's not good. That's not good.
They do enjoy the double finger. No, I'm just making that up. I feel like Troy honestly would probably say something like, "I'm not crazy about it, but I'll watch it because I got nothing else
1,
going
2,
on." And then he would
3 or 4 fingers up your bum, with 4 being the best.
Oh, obviously 4 is the best. Come on. 2 fingers and a thumb.
I think he's gonna give it 3. He's gonna give it 3.
I think Troy is gonna be
2.5.
Close to where Jeff is on this.
Tepid and like, maybe this is great. I'll keep watching it until it really shits the bed. But until then,
weirdly, I think he's gonna split the difference between you two. I think he's gonna be like, "Oh, I wanna like it like Jeff does, but I don't like it like Chris does it." Because I think he's gonna come down and say like it's a 2.5 or some shit. Because a 2 is clearly bad and a 3 is clearly good.
Yeah,
and this is.
I'm very curious to get Troy back on next week because
Troy's the type to split the difference.
What is it?
Yeah,
100%. He can't. Make those things called decisions.
And there's so many things. That was a good one.
Kidding, Troy.
There's so many good things in this show that Troy absolutely would be completely on board with, including the representation of trans characters, the all-women staff on the show, as far as teleplay and directed goes. Like, there's so many pieces of the show that I feel like Troy would really, really get behind. And I feel like those aren't enough to maintain their attention. And I feel like they're still going to be like, this show might suck. So I don't know yet. But
and what you say about
I was annoyed that the
behind-the-scenes
majority of the
tensions.
trans characters just fucked off.
for now, we might catch up with them later.
Maybe. I mean, there was the one that stayed with Hero. I think his name was Sam.
Sam is Hero's best friend.
He stayed on, so that's great. But the rest of them, they're just like, peace! And just drove off into the sunset.
Here's a little... So what I know, for a little inside baseball knowledge, is that shows don't have bottomless budgets. So if characters are introduced, there's a good chance they come back. Even if they fuck off for a little bit, there's a very good chance they're coming back.
Question. I don't think so, first of all.
You think they're gone?
Yeah.
Could be. Maybe I'm a liar.
But they were there. They were there to introduce the fact that there were others, and now he's the representative of that. But I think that now great. I lost your train of thought.
That's me doing what I do best, making you lose your train of thought.
Good job.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're gonna get some good. I think this will be an interesting season. I'm definitely down for watching the rest. Clearly, Chris would rather eat worms.
You'll have to tell me. I'll eat the worms that come out of people after they drink ivermectin.
Oh man,
Jeez.
I just played the bacon game with Eliza Clark, who is the showrunner. Eliza Clark is the showrunner for the show, and I just played the Kevin Bacon game with her. She is married to Zach Whedon, the half brother of Joss Whedon. So that I don't know. That's just a fun little fact. Doesn't really mean anything.
What I was going to say was that I'm wondering what the behind the scenes tensions were on this show. That kind of delayed it, and maybe is the causation of some of these disjointed nature or the slow pace or where they're going with it. Are they gonna? My worry is that they're gonna lean in too much of like the current cultural zeitgeist and just like keep getting away from the core content, because I know this is not The Boys in the sense like it's not some like kind of enjoyed but not like loved critically content that's like now being kind of upgraded. This is like a beloved series. Like this is like a series that people have like look at as like gospel, and like it is off to the start of like not just following the comic, which I appreciate. Like I don't even think you should. This for me was like
the show should be its own thing.
I watched the first I read the first 4 trades, but then didn't finish it. Probably because, like The Boys, it was okay. I was enjoying it, and I thought there was some really good stuff in it, but it didn't make me get the next one, right? It didn't make me keep going with it, and it's ripe for kind of like picking up on the cultural zeitgeist and telling some really interesting tales with it. And if it's not really doing that because they couldn't get on board together behind the scenes, and now it's kind of, but maybe it's trying to find its footing, and it's gonna lean into one or the other.
Maybe.
Because I think that like what I could bet is that like the original showrunner, if I had to guess, let me put it this way: if I had to hope, I would say that like the original showrunner probably wanted like a straight from the comics adaptation, and the new showrunners were like, let's adapt this to the current zeitgeist. And I think this is better for the cultural zeitgeist type of thing, but like I think that there's too many people who love the original that are just like, I want the original, I want panel for panel adaptation, and which is just garbage. It's garbage. It's never been done well.
Yeah, that
name
never
me something
works.
that just did panel for panel like adaptation of a comic, and it's great. Nothing. There's nothing out there. Like I promise you.
So, just to give some backstory, the original showrunner was supposed to be Michael Green, who has written or co-written several screenplays you may have heard of, including Logan, Alien Covenant, Blade Runner 2049, and Murder on the Orient Express in 2017.
None of those have I liked.
He also is a big contributor. He's also a comic writer for DC.
Surprise.
Co-wrote Batman, Lovers and Madmen, co-wrote Superman, Batman, and the reboot of Supergirl.
I'd be willing to bet that he was just trying to go, for the comic. Like he was trying to.
He sounds like a big comic guy from what I just read, so probably.
And they wanted to kind of use this as a premise and evolve it to what it could be. And if they aim to do that, I think they've already stemmed away from it. I think they probably had to do enough reshooting to kind of make it. Maybe it's a little slow and disjointed. But this show could really get its footing and tell some cool shit. Because, like, okay, 355 is clearly the coolest character.
Yes.
But I think the right wing daughter of the president
Kim
is really intriguing. I love the scenes with her. She's really engaging. I love Diane Lane. She's really good in this. Both of those characters are worth the watch in and of themselves. Or all 3 of those I think are really good. Yorick is fine. I do feel that like
Yorick needs to grow.
He needs to grow a little bit. But I just don't see it being good because I've never seen a character like his grow into somebody that I like. Like, there's no
I
growth
see.
that you can do. You're just the way that you decided to play him was just a step beyond too beta. Like, I don't think I'll ever believe this character at his core can be more of a capable person. He seems incapable of anything.
Huh.
Without reason, except for that it benefits the story they're trying to tell.
I hope you're wrong, because I do like the character of Yorick. It seems like he does have something to prove. Maybe to Beth to try to win her back, because she did leave. Maybe he does
This
that
is where
as
I
like a
think Chris was
redemptive arc.
talking. Like, he's not capable enough. Like, he's not capable at all. And the thing is that he is supposed to be an escape artist. He is supposed to be, like, not the best one, but he's supposed to be somewhat endearing, and he is supposed to be able, and he is supposed to be, like, fucking, I think, lovable. I think he's supposed to be like someone that like you're bothered by, but you really do love. Like, Huey does a much better job of kind of being a beta male, but like being likable. Like, he has an edge to him. Like, when he says, "No, I'm not going to go to a second location with you," is totally in character, yet also biting. Like, he has a little bite to him, and he has a little fight in him, and I don't feel that in Yorick. Like, I don't feel like he has any fight in him at all. And I think that maybe is part of his character, but I definitely don't buy it now if he turns and suddenly not that way.
I specifically had a note that I hope Beth doesn't get back with Yorick because he sucks and deserves to be alone.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I kind of agree with that, too.
Yeah.
So maybe watch this.
You can tell how much I hated this because I wrote notes on this fucking show about how much I disliked it.
Hate notes. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's like fucking full.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's going to wrap it up for the
I
opening
think
of
we're
Why
done
the
here.
Last Man on Hulu.
Yeah. Specifically, Jeff, you'll have to tell me how the rest of the show goes because I don't think I'll get an unbiased opinion from D.
That's fair. That's absolutely a fair point.
I feel like I was fair this entire time. I thought it was like identifying with you.
Well, audience,
I mean,
thank you.
I do appreciate that you validated or rather said my claim was valid, that it's not a stupendous show.
Stupendous.
Why not?
What a word.
It's
Because it put me in a fucking stupor.
Didn't get your money's worth out of that word of the day calendar there, Chris?
No, that's just my one vocabulary word that I learned in school.
And on that note, thank
this
you all
past year and a
for
half
listening.
has been flupendous.
I'm just gonna breeze past that joke. So thank you all for listening to this podcast. Hopefully you're not the last man listening. Hey, jokes.
Why?
If you like what you heard, and I don't know why you would, go ahead and please leave us a nice review on your favorite podcasting platform. I hear Apple has them, and Spotify should, I think. And go ahead and email us at tbandjpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for being here, Chris.
And tell
D.
us why Chris is wrong.
Yeah, tell us why Chris is
wrong. Or tell us
By all
why
means, I will
Jeff
read
and I are wrong.
any comment that comes through that says why I'm wrong. And
And,
maybe I can find something to enjoy in this show.
And I will watch any Tucker Carlson clip you guys send me. Do it. I dare you.
Oh, fuck.
All right. Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.